An advanced soul isn't afraid of emotions. They embrace them. You've learned that feeling deeply isn't a weakness. It's a compass. You've sat with grief long enough to understand its wisdom. You've welcomed joy without clinging to it. You don't numb your pain or chase constant happiness. Instead, you listen, because every emotion, like even the uncomfortable ones, carries a message that helps you grow. Advanced souls don't run from the dark. They use it to understand the light. To feel deeply is both a gift and a responsibility. It means that you don't just see life, you experience it with every fiber of your being. You can walk into a room and sense the unspoken tension, the quiet sadness, the gentle hope in someone's eyes. You absorb life in high definition, and that sensitivity sometimes feels overwhelming. But here's what makes an advanced soul different. You don't run from those emotions. You lean into them. You understand that emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. When pain arrives, you don't slam the door on it. You sit down with it and ask, what are you trying to teach me? When joy bursts open inside you, you don't cling to it in fear that it will fade. You let it flow through you, knowing that gratitude keeps the heart alive. Most people try to escape their feelings through distractions, overworking, scrolling, drinking, pretending. But an evolved soul knows that avoidance only postpones the lesson. You've realized that the only way out of emotion is through it. You've cried until your body was empty, then discovered peace sitting quietly on the other side of tears. You felt heartbreak so raw it made you question your worth. Yet from that very wound, compassion was born. Feeling deeply means you live life awake. You don't numb your sensitivity because you've learned that numbness is too high a price to pay for comfort. You've accepted that being sensitive doesn't make you fragile. It makes you authentic. It means your heart is strong enough to stay open in a world that often encourages us to shut down. And that openness, that willingness to feel everything, even when it hurts, is what allows you to connect, heal, and grow. Because the soul that dares to feel deeply becomes the soul that understands life profoundly. You've stopped apologizing for your emotions. You've stopped shrinking your feelings to make others comfortable. Instead, you've learned to honor them, to listen to them, and to use them as tools for transformation. You've realized that your sensitivity is not a curse. It's your compass. It leads you toward empathy, wisdom, and truth. You no longer fear being too emotional because you now know this. The depth of your feeling is the depth of your humanity. And that capacity to feel, to stay present with the full spectrum of emotion is one of the clearest signs of an advanced soul. There comes a point in spiritual maturity when solitude stops feeling like isolation and begins to feel like freedom. For an advanced soul, being alone isn't about rejecting people. It's about reconnecting with yourself. You've discovered that silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. You've learned that when the world grows loud, peace doesn't come from escaping it, but from returning to your own stillness. You no longer chase constant company to feel validated. You've outgrown the need to always be doing something with someone. Instead, you've learned to be with yourself fully, quietly, and comfortably. You understand that solitude isn't the absence of love, it's the presence of clarity. In those sacred, quiet hours, you hear your own voice again. You notice your thoughts, your intuition, and the subtle whisper of your inner wisdom. Things that get drowned out when life becomes too crowded. People who are not yet awakened often misunderstand solitude. They call it loneliness because they haven't yet met themselves in silence. But you have. You've learned that being alone doesn't mean you're unloved. It means you're self-aware. You no longer seek people to fill your emptiness because you've realized that your wholeness comes from within. You've stopped chasing temporary distractions that keep you away from your truth. Instead, you now protect your peace like it's sacred ground, because it is. You use solitude to recharge, to reflect, to realign. You understand that your energy is precious and not everyone deserves access to it. And in that sacred quiet, you've discovered something profound. Peace is addictive. Once you've tasted it, you no longer crave noise. You begin to notice how drama feels heavy, how gossip feels toxic, how superficial connection feels hollow. So you choose differently. You choose time alone, not because you dislike people, but because you've fallen in love with your own presence. Advanced souls know that solitude is where the soul expands. It's where clarity blooms and healing takes root. It's where you stop running from yourself and start listening to the person you've always been becoming. You've realized that silence doesn't take you away from life, it brings you closer to it. Because in solitude, you meet the truest version of your see. An advanced soul doesn't look at life through the lens of randomness. You see design, even in the disorder. Where others see chaos, you sense meaning. You've reached a level of awareness where you understand that nothing just happens. Every encounter, delay, heartbreak, and victory is a thread in a tapestry that's still being woven. You've stopped labeling things as good or bad. Instead, you look deeper and ask, what is this moment teaching me? That's wisdom, the ability to find purpose inside pain and alignment inside uncertainty. You've learned that the universe doesn't make mistakes. It makes messages. The same situation that once made you frustrated now makes you reflective. You no longer panic when life takes an unexpected turn because you've seen enough to trust that even detours lead somewhere important. To most people, life looks random and a series of lucky breaks and unfortunate events. But to you, it's a curriculum. Every challenge is a classroom. Every relationship is a mirror. Every loss is a redirection. Advanced souls stop reacting emotionally to every storm and start observing what the storm came to clear. You no longer fight for control because you know control is the lowest form of understanding. You trust the rhythm instead. This awareness gives you peace. When things fall apart, you no longer say, "Why me?" You whisper, "I see it now." You begin to notice divine timing, how certain doors closed just before better ones opened, how certain people left right before your purpose appeared. It's not coincidence, it's coordination. And because you see patterns, you've also stopped forcing outcomes. You've learned that if something isn't flowing, it's not meant to be forced. You understand that resistance often means misalignment. Instead of pushing, you pause. Instead of clinging, you release. You've grown to trust that what is truly yours will never require you to beg, chase, or lose your peace. Seeing patterns where others see chaos doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you've developed faith. You've surrendered your need to predict and replaced it with the strength to perceive. You've become fluent in the language of the universe, reading between the lines of everyday life. That's what makes an advanced soul different. You don't see chaos as the end. You see it as the beginning of a deeper order, one that only the awakened heart can recognize. An advanced soul has learned to listen beyond the surface. You don't just hear what people say, you feel what they mean. You read the energy beneath the sentence, the truth behind the tone, the story that never made it into words. You've developed an awareness that many don't understand. When someone smiles but their eyes are weary, you sense the exhaustion they hide. When someone says they're fine but their spirit feels heavy, you feel the ache they're trying to bury. This ability isn't about judgment. It's about empathy. It's about being tuned in to the emotional current that flows beneath human interaction. While others take words at face value, you listen with your intuition. You've come to understand that energy never lies. People do, but energy doesn't. Words can be rehearsed. Energy is raw truth. And sometimes this sensitivity can feel like both a blessing and a burden. You can walk into a room and immediately feel whether it's filled with peace or tension. You pick up on unspoken hostility, hidden pain, or genuine kindness. Hat awareness makes you cautious with your surroundings because you've learned how easily energy can transfer. You no longer ignore the discomfort your body feels around certain people. You honor it. You protect your peace by walking away from energy that drains you, even when it comes with a familiar face. Being able to sense energy means you've learned the difference between presence and performance. You've stopped chasing people who only give you words without warmth. You value those who feel genuine, whose actions carry the same vibration as their promises. You've also learned that not everyone can meet you at that depth, and that's okay. Your awareness isn't meant to make you superior, it's meant to make you discerning. This sensitivity also changes how you show up. You speak more gently, you listen more intentionally, and you choose your words with care because you know they carry energy too. You no longer speak to impress, you speak to connect. You've learned that every interaction leaves a residue, either peace or tension, and you aim to leave peace wherever you go. To sense energy is to live attuned to truth. It means you can no longer pretend, no longer participate in shallow exchanges. You crave depth, authenticity, and mutual understanding. You know when someone's presence feels like sunlight and when it feels like a shadow. And because of that, you choose your company not by how people appear, but by how they feel. This is the power of an advanced soul, to sense the unseen, to listen between the words, and to trust the quiet wisdom of intuition. You no longer live in a world of appearances. You live in a world of energy, and that awareness guides every step you take. At a certain point in your growth, you stop craving chaos. You stop finding excitement in emotional roller coasters, toxic arguments, or the thrill of proving yourself right. You begin to crave something quieter, something softer, peace. That's when you know your soul has matured. You've realized that drama may entertain the ego, but it starves the spirit. Healing, though slow and humbling, fills you with something drama never could: freedom. An advanced soul has learned that healing is not about perfection, it's about awareness. You no longer run from your wounds, you face them. You sit with your pain until it starts to speak. You trace the roots of your triggers instead of blaming others for activating them. You understand that growth doesn't happen through avoidance, it happens through confrontation, gentle, compassionate, but honest confrontation with yourself. There was a time when you were addicted to intensity, relationships that burned too bright, arguments that felt alive, chaos that kept your heart racing. But now you crave stability. You crave softness. You've realized that peace doesn't mean boredom. It means balance. You no longer mistake drama for connection or conflict for passion. You've learned that calm energy doesn't mean there's nothing happening. It means something sacred is healing. When you start valuing healing over drama, your boundaries change. You stop chasing people who only bring storms into your life. You stop explaining yourself to those who thrive on misunderstanding you. You walk away not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. You protect your energy because you've learned how fragile peace can be and how powerful it becomes when guarded. Healing is not glamorous. It's lonely, repetitive, and often invisible. But an advanced soul chooses it anyway. You've learned to sit quietly in the discomfort of growth, to cry without shame, to rest without guilt, and to forgive without waiting for an apology. You know that healing doesn't happen overnight. Yeah, it happens every day. You choose not to reopen the wound. The more you heal, the more you lose interest in the noise of life. Gossip drains you. Anger feels heavy. Superficial conversations bore you. You begin to crave depth, conversations about meaning, purpose, and truth. You choose environments where your nervous system can relax, not react. You start realizing that your peace is your power, and anything that costs it is too expensive. This is the mark of an advanced soul, one who no longer finds comfort in chaos. You're drawn to healing because you've tasted its sweetness. You've learned that peace is not something you stumble upon. It's something you build. And every day you choose it over drama, your soul grows quieter, wiser, and infinitely stronger. One of the greatest signs of an advanced soul is the quiet confidence that comes from no longer needing everyone to understand you. You've reached a place in your journey where you realize that understanding is not a requirement for acceptance. You no longer chase validation. You no longer shape-shift to make others comfortable. You've learned that being misunderstood is not a tragedy. It's often a sign that you're evolving beyond familiar patterns. There was a time when you tried so hard to explain yourself, your choices, your silence, your dreams, your boundaries. You wanted people to see your heart clearly, to know your intentions were good. But experience taught you something powerful. Not everyone has the capacity to understand from where you stand. Some people are not meant to get you. They're meant to grow away from you. And that realization, while painful, becomes liberating. An advanced soul no longer spends energy convincing others of their truth. You've learned that truth doesn't need defenders, it needs embodiment. You live your beliefs instead of debating them. You walk your path instead of justifying it. And over time, you realize that the right people, those aligned with your frequency, will understand you without needing an explanation. They'll feel your intention, even in your silence. You've also learned that misunderstanding is a natural consequence of authenticity. The more you stand in your truth, the more you disrupt others who are still hiding from theirs. Some will misread your peace as arrogance, your boundaries as coldness, your solitude as rejection, but you've stopped taking it personally. You know that perception often says more about the observer than the observed. When you stop needing to be understood, life becomes lighter. You start conserving emotional energy. You stop over-explaining. You start trusting yourself. You find joy in your own alignment, not in public approval. You let your peace speak louder than your words. You no longer need applause to feel validated or agreement to feel certain. You rest in the quiet assurance that you're living truthfully, and that's enough. This emotional freedom also deepens your compassion. You stop judging others for not being where you are because you remember when you were there too. You stop arguing with closed minds and start airing only where curiosity lives. You love without control, speak without fear, and walk away without bitterness. Because you understand people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. To stop needing to be understood is not detachment, it's mastery. It's the maturity of knowing that your worth isn't up for debate. It's the wisdom of realizing that your journey is uniquely yours, and it doesn't need to be translated for anyone else. Advanced souls live in that freedom, walking quietly, loving openly, and standing rooted in who they are, even when the world can't fully comprehend it. An advanced soul understands something that takes most people a lifetime to learn. Forgiveness isn't about the other person, it's about you. It's not about erasing what happened, it's about releasing its power over your peace. You've learned that closure doesn't always come in the form of an apology, an explanation, or a perfect ending. Sometimes closure is simply you deciding that your peace is more important than your pain. You've reached the point where you no longer wait for people to admit what they did, to say they're sorry, or to suddenly become who you needed them to be. You've stopped holding your healing hostage to someone else's accountability because you know that some people will never understand the depth of the hurt they caused. And that's okay. You forgive anyway, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve freedom. Forgiveness doesn't mean you're weak or that you've forgotten. It means you're strong enough to let go of the emotional weight that was slowly suffocating you. You no longer replay the story over and over in your mind. You've stopped trying to rewrite the past or fix what broke. Instead, you've chosen to make peace with the pieces. You've learned that letting go isn't losing, and it's reclaiming your energy. Advanced souls forgive differently. You don't do it to look virtuous or to please anyone. You do it quietly, often without words, in the privacy of your own heart. You release resentment because you understand it poisons you more than it punishes anyone else. You stop seeking justice from people who are incapable of giving it. You stop needing closure from conversations that will never happen. You simply say, I release this, and then you move forward lighter, freer, softer. Forgiving without closure is one of the deepest forms of self-love. It means you've decided to stop bleeding for wounds that no longer deserve your attention. It means you've accepted that peace doesn't depend on fairness. It depends on surrender. You no longer need revenge, validation, or even understanding. You only need peace. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop demanding closure from others, you create closure within yourself. You realize that your heart doesn't need anyone else's permission to heal. The story no longer controls you. The hurt no longer defines you. The memory no longer dictates your worth. Forgiving without closure doesn't mean you allow people to hurt you again. It means you no longer allow the past to hurt you again. You've drawn boundaries, but without bitterness. You walk away, but without hate. You wish them well, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to live unburdened. This is the quiet strength of an advanced soul. To forgive in silence, to heal without announcement, and to move forward without carrying the weight of what could have been. You don't close the door in anger, you close it in peace, because you finally understand that closure was never something you were meant to receive, it was something you were meant to create. For most people, love begins as attachment, the need to hold, to own, to keep. But for an advanced soul, love evolves into something freer, something purer. You've come to understand that true love isn't about possession, it's about presence. It's not about controlling someone's path, but about honoring it. You've learned that love is not a cage, it's a current, an energy that flows through you, not something you cling to out of fear. You felt the difference between attachment and connection. Attachment says, I need you to make me whole. Connection says, I see you as whole already. Attachment is born from fear, the fear of loss, rejection, or abandonment. Connection is born from awareness, the understanding that love doesn't diminish when it's shared, it expands. You've grown enough to recognize that love built on control eventually collapses, but love built on freedom always endures. An advanced soul loves without ownership. You no longer measure love by proximity, constant communication, or the need to be chosen. You measure it by truth, by peace, by alignment. You can love someone deeply and still let them go if their journey no longer aligns with yours. You no longer chase people to prove your worth or beg for love to stay, because you understand that what is meant for you will meet you in peace, not in chaos. This understanding changes how you show up in relationships. You stop suffocating people with expectations. You stop demanding that they heal, behave, or become who you need them to be. You love them for who they are, not for what they give you, but for what you see in them. You know that every soul has its own timing, its own lessons, its own way of evolving. So you choose patience over pressure. You give space instead of ultimatums. You love without needing to control the outcome. You've also learned that love isn't limited to romance. It's the energy you pour into the world, how you listen, how you forgive, how you show up with kindness even when it isn't returned. You love in the way you care for your peace, in the way you speak life into others, in the way you see beauty even in pain. Love to you has become a frequency, not a transaction. And when love leaves, you don't collapse. You don't become bitter. You bless what was, thank it for what it taught you, and let it move on, because you know love never truly disappears. It transforms. It returns in new forms, new faces, new moments. You've realized that love that needs to be possessed isn't love. It's fear disguised as attachment. To love as an advanced soul is to love without conditions, without grasping, without losing yourself. You've reached a place where love is not something you find, it's something you are. It radiates from you naturally, touching everyone around you. And that, more than anything else, is what makes your soul advanced. You've become love itself without needing to hold it, own it, or prove it. Being an advanced soul isn't about perfection, enlightenment, or superiority. It's about awareness. It's the quiet unfolding of wisdom that comes when life has stretched you, softened you, and awakened you to what truly matters. You no longer chase attention, approval, or validation. You chase peace. You crave depth, meaning, and authenticity. You've learned that success means nothing if your soul is restless, and that real growth often looks like solitude, silence, and surrender. An advanced soul is not loud. You don't need to announce your evolution. It shows in the way you move. You speak less, but with more intention. You love deeper, but with more freedom. You forgive quicker, but with firmer boundaries. You've learned that you can be kind without being naive, giving without being drained, and strong without being hardened. Every challenge you've faced has peeled away another layer of illusion, bringing you closer to your essence. You see life differently now, not as a series of random moments, but as a sacred journey designed to refine you. You've stopped asking, why is this happening to me? And started whispering, what is this teaching me? That shift is where transformation begins. The advanced soul doesn't strive to escape the human experience, it embraces it. You've learned to find grace in the chaos, purpose in the pain, and joy in the small things. You no longer need to be understood or admired. You simply are. And that presence, grounded, compassionate, unbothered, and true, is the quiet evidence of your evolution. So if you recognize yourself in these signs, honor it, protect your peace, guard your energy, keep loving without fear, forgiving without conditions, and walking your path without apology. You are not behind, you are becoming. You are not lost, you are awakening. And the more you live from your soul, the more you realize that the journey itself is the destination,